I was sitting here this morning thinking about how I soon will be sitting on a balcony watching the fog roll off the Mississippi, thick and heavy like a velvet curtain. There's something about the humidity in New Orleans that forces you to slow down. And as I sip my coffee, I found myself thinking about the heavy sigh we all let out when we open our laptops. It's that specific weight on your chest feeling of looking at a blank screen and wondering who on earth is actually listening to us. When we reach this stage of life, especially having spent decades in careers that have nothing to do with digital algorithms, there is this quiet, nagging fear that we are just shouting into a void. We spent 30 years being the experts in our classrooms, our offices, or our homes, and now we're here trying to figure out how to explain who we are in a caption. It feels a bit like we're being the new girl at school where everyone else already knows the secret handshake. I think we often carry this unspoken tech shame, this worry that because we don't want to dance on a camera or use the latest trending sound, that we're somehow invisible. If you're new to our circle, welcome to Glimmer and Grace Co. I'm Michelle, and I'm so glad that you're here on this virtual balcony with me today. On this podcast, we talk about the challenges, fears, and frustrations that our digital product boutiques bring and how to navigate those struggles in our soft life while building a quiet income. If you hear the noise in the background, Scott's putting up crown molding today. I was talking to a friend in our circle the other day, and she told me that she felt like a ghost in her own business. I was a little confused by that. She had these beautiful, soulful products, things that could truly change someone's day, but she's paralyzed by the idea of awareness content. The very word feels loud and aggressive, doesn't it? It sounds like we have to stand on a street corner in the French Quarter or wherever you're at today with a big megaphone. But that isn't what our legacy is about. We are at a place where we want our work to be an anchor, not a burden. We have to find ease in how we introduce ourselves to the world. We need to remember that when people encounter us for the very first time, they aren't looking for a polished corporate bio. They're asking, who are you? And do you actually know what you're talking about? They're looking for a glimmer of authority, a reason to stop scrolling for just 3 minutes to see if we have something worth their time. It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking we need thousands of followers before we can be considered a success. We look at the numbers and we feel that familiar sting of not enough. But I want us to shift that perspective. Awareness isn't about the masses. It's about the right person finding a wide entrance to our world. It's about building brand visibility that feels like a warm invitation rather than a cold pitch. I remember the first time I realized that I didn't need to be everything to everyone. I just needed to be the person who understood the specific ache of a woman over 50 trying to reclaim her time. When we create content that simply shares our reputation and starts building that initial trust, we are opening a door. We don't have to go deep immediately. We can just be relevant to their needs, drawing them in to find out more without overwhelming them or ourselves. There's a gentleness in realizing that our awareness content should be public and easy to find, but it doesn't have to be a performance. It's just us being authentic and allowing the search engines to do the heavy lifting of connecting us with the people who are already looking for what we have to offer. Sometimes I think that we overcomplicate lead generation as part of this journey because it sounds so clinical. It feels like we're trying to trap people in a net, but in our digital boutiques, it's really just about a deeper conversation. It's about asking, can I solve this immediate problem for you? It's giving them a little taste. A lead magnet proves our value is worth their precious time. At our age, time is one of the things that we refuse to waste anymore, and our customers feel the exact same way. They are considering if we're worth even following, if the relationship we're offering has any substance to back up the initial spark. I see so many brilliant women stalling on this because they're afraid to ask for the sale. We've been conditioned to be givers, the nurturers, the ones who handle everything for everyone else for free. When it comes to paid content, that old friction starts to rub. We start wondering if what we have built is actually worth paying for. We worry if our expertise, the decades of life that we've lived, and the wisdom that we've gathered is worth the price tag that we've put on it. But honey, your course, your workshop, your coaching resources, they are all the result of a life well lived. The purpose of this content is to earn you an income so that you can sustain this soft life that we're building here. It's okay to show them the results they want and tell them exactly what they're getting for their money. We aren't just selling a PDF, we're selling a transformation. We're nudging them forward with a bit of urgency because we know that the sooner that they start, the sooner that they get to find their own grace in life. Then there's the relationship content, which is my personal favorite because it's where the heart lives. This is where we stop being the marketers and be neighbors. It's the weekly newsletter that feels like a letter from a friend, the live videos where the lighting might be off, but the soul is present. This is where we answer the quiet question, did I make the right choice in buying from you? This content is the most generous because the only motive is to give people what they truly want and need. It's where we listen to the feedback, the whispers of our audience, and deliver exactly what they need to meet them in their messy middle. This is exclusive. This is for the people who have already walked through the door and sat down at our tables. It's about building a loyal following that feels more like a community and less like a database. I often think about how we can make this realistic for ourselves. We are not 20-somethings with endless energy and no joints that ache when the rain is coming. We need a plan we can actually commit to because content creation takes a massive amount of effort. I don't want us to have an editorial calendar that feels like a prison sentence. I want a one-page plan that we can glance at and feel a sense of peace. We have to be honest about our resources and our time now. Maybe we can't post every single day, and that's perfectly fine. Maybe we focus on areas where we have the most impact. We can save so much time by taking an inventory of what we already have. We've been writing, speaking, and creating in different ways for years. We can turn a series of old blog posts into an ebook or take a webinar and let it breathe as a podcast episode. The beauty of this shift that we're in is that we get to pick the types of content that we actually enjoy creating. If you hate writing long-form essays, don't do it. If you love talking, then lean into that. Lean into a podcast or a long-form video. When we enjoy the process, it shows. It's the sophisticated simplicity we talk about here on Glimmer and Grace Co. We aren't trying to hack the system. We're trying to honor our strengths. I find that when I'm struggling, I just have to look at my dogs, my Bayou boys. Elliot will sit for an hour just watching the birds, completely content in his stillness. We often call him like a yoga instructor in his previous life. We can find that same focus in our business goals. We pick our top 3 goals, clarify what we want to be known for, and let that dedicate where we spend our energy. We don't need to be everywhere all the time. We just need to be where our people are, answering the questions that they're already asking inside their own heads. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to be a content creator when you really just want to be a business owner. It's the weight of feeling like you have to constantly invent something new, something shiny, something that will stop the thumb from scrolling past. We carry this internal worry that if we aren't constantly pouring out fresh thoughts, we will be forgotten in the digital dust. I felt that heavy thud in my chest the other day, and that quiet voice that was whispering that maybe my best ideas have already been said, or worse, that they weren't loud enough to matter the first time. I've been sitting with this thought lately. The idea that we don't have to reinvent the wheel to establish our authority out there in the internet. We just have to be consistent in our essence. I have a friend in our circle, a woman who has spent the last 40 years as a master gardener before she started her digital boutique. She was nearly in tears because she felt that she had run out of things to say. Can you imagine 40 years in a garden and you have nothing to say? After only 3 weeks of posting, she felt like she was going to give up. She felt like a failure because she didn't have a new hack to share every morning. So we sat together and I asked her, how many times do you think over the years that you had to tell your students how to prune a rose bush? And she laughed and she's like, thousands. And that's the pivot, isn't it? Authority isn't about novelty. It's about depth. It's about taking that one core truth that you know better than anyone else and letting it breathe in different ways. And this is where we find our heritage brand status. We aren't building flash in a pan viral moments. We are building a legacy. When we think about establishing authority, we often think that we need to be more, but I think we actually need to be less and more focused. I've been looking at how we can use what we already have to build that trust. Have you ever felt the relief of realizing you already had the answers when you were in a certain situation? That is the beauty of content repurposing. It's not about being lazy. It's about being a good steward of your wisdom. We can take one deep, soulful lesson, the kind that comes from 30 years of living, and we can turn it into a podcast, then a series of quiet emails, then a beautiful PDF guide that sits on someone's digital shelf like a cherished book. The struggle usually happens when we try to speak to everyone at once. We get tired because we're trying to translate our soul into too many languages. I want us to look at the customer profile not just as a marketing exercise, but as a dinner invitation. Who are you actually talking to? When I think about you, I imagine that you're sitting right here with me, maybe feeling a little bit of the tech shame that we talked about earlier, but with a fire in your heart, still willing to build something that lasts. When we know who we're talking to, our authority becomes natural because we are simply helping a friend. We don't need a pedestal. We just need a clear voice. We need to start by identifying those unique strengths that we've gathered over the decades. Maybe it's your ability to organize chaos, or your eye for vintage aesthetics, or the way you can explain complex things with a very simple story. I want us to feel like we're in the perfect place for our niche. And it's not about finding a profitable category. It's about finding the spot where our experience meets a specific need. When we stand in that spot, our authority is unshakable. We know our stuff. We don't have to prove that we are experts. Our history does all that for us. But we do have to be intentional about how we show up. This means setting editorial standards for ourselves. And it sounds fancy, but it's really just meaning, does this sound like me? Does this offer grace? Does this build a glimmer of hope for a person who's reading it? Those are my things. Your business might be completely different. If it doesn't sound like it meets those standards, then we let it go. We don't just post to post. I want to talk a moment about this friction and this hustle mentality that tells us that we need to be everywhere all the time. It's a lie that leads to burnout, especially for those of us who value a soft life. I've seen women in our circle try to master TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all in 1 month, only to end up closing their laptop in defeat. The graceful pivot here is to choose 1 or 2 homes for your content. And yes, LinkedIn is a good social platform for this. It is exploding right now. Where do you feel the most like yourself? If you love the slow pace of a long-form blog, let that be your anchor, like in Substack. If you like the intimacy of audio, then let that be a podcast. Let your sanctuary live in Spotify or Apple. We establish authority by being a consistent presence in one place rather than a ghost in 5 different places. There's a certain sophisticated simplicity in having a 1-page content plan. I don't want you to have a complex spreadsheet that makes your head spin. I want you to have a simple rhythm. Think of it like the tides of the bayou. They come in and they go out. It's predictable and it's steady. Maybe your rhythm is one deep thought shared on Tuesdays and a quiet check-in on Fridays. That's enough. When we give ourselves permission to be simple, we actually show more authority. It shows that we are in control of our time and our energy and how we want to show up. It shows that we aren't desperate for attention, but rather we're available for connection. We also have to tackle the fear that we are too late. I hear this whispered so often, usually late at night when the house is quiet. We see 20-year-olds talking about passive income, or they made $1 million printing a PDF this week on Etsy. And we think that we've missed the boat, but listen to me, they have the energy, but you have the essence. You have a heritage that they haven't lived long enough to claim yet. Your authority is built on the foundation of your 34 years in the classroom, like me, or your decades of navigating life's messy middle. That cannot be hacked. It can only be lived. So when you share from that place, you aren't competing with anyone. You're standing in a category of one, yourself. Your digital boutique has its own territory. You establish your authority by clearly defining the boundaries of what you do or who you are. This is what we call establishing authority. It's what we call being honest. It's about saying, this is what I know, and this is how I can help you find your grace. When we lead with that kind of honesty, the quiet income starts to flow because people are drawn to the truth. They are tired of the noise, all the TikTok dances, buy from the TikTok shop. They're looking for a balcony to sit on, and you are the one offering the chair. I've noticed from visiting my daughter before that there's a special kind of quiet that settles over the bayou in the late afternoon, a stillness that feels like it's waiting for a secret to be told. I think that this is the feeling that we're all searching for in our businesses. That's the moment where the noise of the hustle stops, and then we can finally hear our own wisdom. But lately, I've been sitting here with heavy thoughts about how often we let our own brilliance go to waste. We spend days, sometimes weeks, pouring our hearts into a single post or a beautiful guide, only to let it vanish into the digital ether after 24 hours. It feels a bit like baking a magnificent caramel cake, taking one bite, and then throwing the rest away. Who does that? That internal worry that we are on a hamster wheel of creation is what leads to that deep soul-level fatigue that we all know too well. I have a friend in this circle who's an incredible interior designer. She's a woman with an eye for sophisticated simplicity that could make any room feel like a sanctuary. She told me that she was feeling like a failure recently because she hasn't sent a newsletter out in a month. When I asked her why, she said, I already told them everything I know about lighting in a video last year, and I don't want to repeat myself. We sat there for a moment, and I realized how many of us suffer from this fear of being redundant. But the pivot is this. Our people didn't hear us the first time, or they weren't ready to hear it, or they simply need to hear it in a different way. I can tell you from YouTube, not everyone's going to be around the first time that video is played. It might be 6 months or a year before they see it. So establishing your authority isn't about 1,000 ideas. It's about having 3 or 4 legacy ideas and sharing them with such grace and variety that they become the anchor of your brand. Think about the content you've already created as a digital asset vault. This is a phrase that we use a lot here at Glimmer Grace Co. because it changes the way that you look at your work. You aren't just making content, you're building assets. When we take a long-form blog post, something deep and resonant, and we break it into 5 small glimmers for social media or a LinkedIn post, we aren't being lazy. We're being intentional. We're honoring the work that we already did. I want us to look at our business through the lens of a curator. A curator in a gallery doesn't bring in new paintings every single morning. They take the masterpieces that they have and they light them differently, they move them to a new wall, or they tell a different story about the artist. This is how we establish ourselves as a heritage brand in our niche. When we start talking about things like repurposing workflows or content calendars, it feels like we're back in corporate meetings that we never wanted to attend in the first place. But let's simplify it, okay? Imagine your content is like a beautiful vintage dress that you found in a shop on Magazine Street. You can wear it with pearls for a dinner party, or you can put a denim jacket over it for a morning walk in the Garden District. It's the same dress, but it serves a different purpose for a different moment. Your wisdom is the dress. The way you repurpose it is just the styling. We can take a single recorded workshop and turn it into a lead magnet, a series of emails, and a collection of quotes that remind our audience why they trusted us in the first place. This is where the soft life meets the quiet income. When we stop trying to be a factory and start being a digital boutique, the friction melts away. We give ourselves permission to breathe, girls. I see so many women in our circles struggling with this content fatigue because they think they have to be on all the time. But authority is often found in the pauses. It's found in consistency of your message, not the frequency of your shouting. When we have a plan, a simple one-page roadmap, we don't wake up with the, what am I going to talk about today? What am I going to post today? Panic. We just look at our vault and ask, which piece of my legacy can I share today to help someone find their glimmer who's never heard my message before? I was watching Scott work on one of his projects as we're getting the house ready to sell the other day, and he has these tools that have lasted him for over 40 years. He doesn't buy new ones every time a new model comes out. He just knows how to apply his expertise to whatever project he has in front of him. He is amazing, you guys. He can just look at stuff and figure it out. So that's us. We are modern elders of the digital world. We have the tools. We have the stories, girls. We just need to trust our audience wants to hear them more than once. They want the comfort of our consistent voice. They want to know that when they come to our virtual balcony, that they're going to get the same sophisticated, soulful guidance every single time. It's like calling up the trusted friend. You want their opinion and their advice. As we move forward, I want you to look at your unique strengths and how you can make them more visible without making yourself more tired. Maybe it's taking those voice notes that you've been recording for yourself and letting them become the shop notes for your digital boutique. Maybe it's taking the messy middle of your own journey and turning it into a guide for the woman who is exactly where you were 2 years ago. This isn't about hustling for more views. It's about creating a portable life where your business supports your peace. When you establish your authority through quality and depth, you aren't just selling a product, you're offering a sanctuary. When I was painting the baseboards in the living room the other day and listening to one of my favorite rockabilly playlists, there was a rhythm to this music that didn't ask for permission. It just flowed. And it reminded me of how we often treat our business expertise like a one-time performance instead of a classic anthem. We carry this internal worry that if we aren't consistently changing our tune, we'll become background noise. I've felt that specific sting, the one where you look at your beautiful digital products and you wonder if they're enough to stand the test of time or if they're just another Etsy listing. We worry that our quality is just a polite word for old-fashioned and that the world has moved on to faster, louder things. I can tell you right now in my niche, it is all about building mini apps with AI. I'm not into that. I tried it. It took a long time. I used Canva AI to build an app. I used Google's platform to build something too, where it would write the code and everything. But I really am not into that. As a Gen X woman, as a person, I don't want to be on my phone more. So the whole creative process about building mini apps right now, I'm not into. Make sure that you're true to yourself and that you find what works for you or what is working for your audience in your niche. I know that I could build many things that would help entrepreneurs with digital boutiques, but right now, that's not my jam, man. I don't want to build a mini app with an AI coder thing. So be true to yourself, please. This just reminded me when I saw Rocky, he's a German Shepherd Lab mix. He found his old raggedy pink squeaky pig under the couch, and he didn't want a new neon colored gadget. He wanted the one that had his history on it. They're super cheap too. You can get them at Ross. It felt familiar to him and that's what he wanted. So I want us to lean into what feels honest and what is our heritage brand. I don't want you guys to just jump into the next big thing because someone on YouTube says this is it. Like stop making PDFs and stop making journals and stop making planners because this AI mini app is the way to go. Okay. I have a friend here in our circle. She's a woman who has spent decades being the master organizer for large firms. She was terrified that her old school methods weren't translated to a digital product very well. So she spent weeks trying to learn high tech speed video editing because she thought that this was the only way that she could show her authority. So we sat together and I told her that people aren't looking for her to be a film editor. They're looking for the piece that her 30 years of order can provide. The graceful pivot for us was to realize that our authority isn't in the medium, it's in the message. So you don't have to learn how to do YouTube videos or dance on TikTok. When we focus on the quality over the quantity, we aren't just making content, we're building a sanctuary of trust. Have you ever felt like you were pretending to be someone younger just to be heard? It's a heavy mask to wear, isn't it? We think that we have to use the slang or follow the hustle scripts to be relevant. But to be true to yourself and have a standard of sophisticated simplicity, you need to take those deep, complex lessons that we've learned over time and present them with clarity. You don't need to be the next, what's the thing they say, 6, 7. I've been thinking about our unique strengths lately, those things that come so naturally to us. We often forget that they're valuable to others. We're the authority that is built on the fact that you can survive the storms and still know how to find your glimmers. We're Gen X. When you share this from a place of weathered wisdom, you don't have to shout. You just have to be present. There are women here ready to listen to you. Trust me. I've been sitting with this idea of editorial standards lately as we protect our energy. And we don't need to respond to every trend or comment on every piece of news. We can choose to only put out what is exciting and excellent to us. I've watched Elliot, our dog, carefully choose which leaf to sniff in the garden or ignore the rest of the yard, and he's just in his own little world. We can do the exact same thing. We can decide that our boutique only stands for the things that provide real value and lasting grace. This is how we build a quiet income, ladies. We aren't chasing every dollar. We're attracting the people who feel that what we have to say has value and depth. I know the fear of the blank page can feel like a mountain sometimes, and you want to hurry up and buy like cheap PLR and just get it out there on Etsy. But we think we have to be profound with every single day, and we don't. We just don't. You can be focused on being you. You can be focused on being helpful. You can be focused on sharing your real passion and thoughts. What if your awareness content is just honest and it looks at a problem that we've all solved before? There are women out there who need your expertise. I was also recently contacted by a woman here in our circle who felt like she was too late because there were already so many people talking about her topic. But they don't have your voice. Ladies, they haven't walked in your shoes through the streets of your own life. Every person's story is unique to them. Your perspective is the quality that cannot be replicated anywhere by anyone else. When we establish authority, we aren't competing for the top spots. We're simply claiming our own chair on the balcony. I want us to feel quiet confidence, knowing that our audience will arrive at the perfect time. If we provide quality, if we stay true to our heritage, to what we know, they will find us. We don't need to chase them down with hacks or grind culture. We just need to keep the lights on. It reminds me of that Motel 6 commercial. So yes, we just need to keep the lights on and the doors open. Our digital asset vault is full of treasures that just need a bit of dusting off and new ways to be seen. Next, I want you to think about how we can make our content feel like a portable life. We want a business that fits in our pocket, on our cell phone. We can just take it to the park or go have a walk with the dogs or go have lunch with a friend. without feeling guilty that you're not tied to your laptop. This happens when our authority works for us. When we create a legacy piece of content like a deep dive guide or soulful workshops, it continues to speak for us even when we are resting. This is the beauty of this digital boutique journey we're on. We're building a system of grace that supports our soft life. As you go through your week, I want you to look at one thing that you've created and ask yourself how you can give it more life. Don't worry about being new. Focus on being true. Your audience is looking for an anchor in a very chaotic world, and you are perfectly positioned to be that for them. You have the history, you have the heart, and you have the grace to lead them through in their next shift of life. We are in this together, one slow, intentional step at a time. Girls, I want you to remember to find your glimmer today and walk in grace. And I'll see you in the next podcast. Bye.